World Financial Group offers entrepreneurs from all backgrounds the opportunity to start their own business on a level playing field. Dr. Yana Woodhouse, receiving the WCM Wall Street Pioneer Award by the United Black Wall Street of America, Inc., is one of those entrepreneurs.
I see WFG and TFA as a place where African Americans with an entrepreneurial mindset can flourish. And the bonus, we help families and serve the communities across the country.
To learn more about us, go to worldfinancialgroup.com.
We are the sons and daughters of the soul. We are resilient and forever forward-thinking. We ask for nothing else than the opportunity to live and to create the lives that we were meant to live. We want nothing but an equal chance at options and possibilities. The same possibilities and options to live out our potential as our fellow man. We want to be heard, understood, and expressive in our reality. We are the future. We are the creative. We are here.
This is Kia Rogers, and you're listening to Urbanology with my dad, Tony Rogers, on WHCR 90.3 FM New York.
Good afternoon. Tony Rogers here, your host for Urbanology, the Art of War. I hope all is well. And wow, spring is here. And this is the second show of the month, and I'm always happy to share this show with Scharlene de la Cruz, who is the director of the Columbia University CU Grow program. And this particular show, we talk about business opportunities for Columbia University. We talk about small businesses. We highlight small businesses that are in the tri-state area, actually. And actually, we've also talked about some international businesses in Africa. So it's an opportunity to focus on opportunities and to congratulate many of the businesses that are doing well above and beyond the call of duty. Mother's Day is coming up, and I thought it would be appropriate to have our next guest on, who is an international milliner. She makes hats for people all over. And again, my co-host, Scharlene,
Hi, Tony.
how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here with you as always. Every month, I try my best to be here.
And happy pre-Mother's Day, Scharlene.
Thank you. Thank
I don't
you.
know how you do all of that you need to do. But as I was mentioning, our first guest for today is a person that has made hats for people all around the world, and I'm happy that
That's
she has
awesome.
her location here in Harlem. We want to bring on the person who makes hats for queens and kings, and Yvetta Petty. How are you doing, Yvetta?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
And Yvetta, I introduced you to Charlene before,
Yes.
but
Hello.
but actually, I saw a CBS interview that was a tremendous education that you just did about the hats that you were making, especially around all of the activity that was taking place in London. This, with the hats that people were wearing there, and the races that are going on. So, talk to us a little bit first about who you are, how you got into uh, this field, and I learned something too. Uh, you have on now a fascinet. Is it fascinet?
Fascinator.
A fascinator. So
Yes.
we'll talk about that too. But anyway,
Beautiful.
the listeners and viewers who you are, my dear.
Well, I'm a hat maker. We're called milliners. And I graduated from FIT. I do have a degree in fashion. I studied fashion marketing, buying, merchandising, and textiles. Um, I worked in corporate fashion behind the scenes for many, many years, and I made hats for a hobby. This was my fun little thing that I did for myself. I made lots of really interesting hats. I wore them to work, and anywhere that I would go, I always got comments, and my hats just got so much attention. So, we're talking, back in the 80s. So I made up a few hats, and my aunt said, let's do a pop up down in Soho on a weekend and just see what happens since everybody loves your hats. So my hats sold out immediately. And I started doing pop ups every weekend. And eventually I said, you know what? I quit my corporate fashion job and I became a full time hat maker, self taught, and I found a space in a place called the Soho Emporium, which was sort of like a little mini mall. It was back then. It was on West Broadway between Spring and Broome. I think the space eventually became where anthropology was. So after being down there for 5 years, and it was a very small space, I sort of outgrew the space. So talking it over with my family, they said, why don't we move up to Harlem? All those wonderful churches, you got built in customers. There's no better place for a hat maker to be. So that is how I ended up in Harlem. We found a great space, which just happened to be the last location of a very, very famous beauty salon. And it's been 33 years I've had my shop now.
Wow.
Goodness.
33 years in Harlem. And my little shop has become a bit of a phenomenon.
That it has.
Because here I am, I'm in this small shop. I'm making, I started out, making really funky, fun stuff downtown. I moved to Harlem and I started to concentrate more on hats for first ladies and hats for the mothers of the church. And then I had a little bit of the really dramatic stuff going on, but that wasn't the big concentration. But I started getting contacted by these young stylists, and they were always doing photo shoots. And a lot of times, if they would go into the big showrooms downtown, they just wouldn't let them borrow, expensive items for their photo shoots. So when these young people would come to me, I would never say no. And it in the end, just being nice to them, these young people start out at the bottom, but they end up at the top. And these young people end up working for Harper's Bazaar and Vogue and Elle and all of the major magazines in the world. And when you were nice to them at the beginning, they don't forget you.
Hmm.
So far, I have had 7 Vogue editorials, including Italian Vogue and Australian Vogue. I had the cover of Teen Vogue last summer, and I've had many covers from InStyle, Harper's Bazaar, uh, L'Officiel Paris, Marie Claire, even Única Mujer magazine in the Dominican Republic.
Oh my God.
Just I've had several Essence editorials. It's just been a wonderful, wonderful thing to become so international that tourists show up at the store and they have already heard about the store. They know all about it from Sweden and Italy and places unknown.
We have to put you on the Harlem Tourism Go Harlem site. We have to talk about that. You got to become. I'll send you information
That
about that.
that would be wonderful because I mean it's just interesting. Like I said, it's been a bit of a phenomenon.
But I love your story, Iveta, because I feel that you were not coming from a place of scarcity. You were coming from a place of abundance and you wanted to help others. And that came to you tenfold to you. And now you're become international because of that mindset. So it's like, it's just kudos to you for all of this work.
Play it forward. And now, the education that I received in talking with you, during Harlem Week, you could always see Ivetta's stuff. That's how I became aware of her during Harlem Week and exhibiting there, and her following that comes. But the races. We know Easter. For me, I knew people got hats for Easter, going to church, and maybe Belmont people had hats. But according to you, Iveta, there are many occasions where people now, throughout, not only in New York but in Harlem, all over the place, buy hats to go. Tell us a little bit about some of that.
Well, there are so many hat required events that people don't even know about. And of course, we just finished the coronation. A big event that just happened recently in New York City was the Conservancy Luncheon for Central Park. Now, this is a benefit for Central Park that happens every year under the tents in the park, and about 1,500 women all in hats. And it is the biggest hat event in New York City, a benefit event, I should say. So I just finished that, and I did have clients there. I have clients every year that go to this, and it's attended, it's by invitation only, and it's attended by socialites and celebrities and people who want to support Central Park. After that, of course, we just had the Kentucky Derby on Saturday, and I have clients that go to the Derby. But more so than the Derby itself, there are all these Derby themed parties that go on, not just in New York City, but all over the country. So we had the Harlem Derby party this past Saturday that was very well attended. It was a beautiful event. Everybody came out in hats. There was good food, good drinks, serving mint juleps, just like if we were in Kentucky. And I was the recipient of the Legacy Award
Congratulations again.
for over 30 years of creating racing fashion. Because a lot of people don't know the history of the Kentucky Derby is really Black history, because most of the jockeys were Black, and the title of the most wins is still held by a Black jockey. And so there is a lot of Black history entwined with the Kentucky Derby. So it's just a wonderful thing when we celebrate the Derby. It is part of our history. So that was wonderful, and that was on Saturday. And then things went on, all, like I said, all over the country. So of course, after the Derby, we have Mother's Day coming up soon. And a hat is a very, very popular gift to give mom. And I usually do a big event every year, Mother's Day celebration at the Gospel Festival. So that's going to all happen this coming weekend. So I'll have lots of people coming through for those Mother's Day
And
hats.
where will that take place?
The Gospel Festival is always in Newark, New Jersey. It's once a year, and it's major. It's at the hockey stadium downtown Newark, and that's an audience of about 10,000 gospel singers all under one roof.
No.
And it's a very popular event for people to bring their mom to
Hmm.
as part of her Mother's Day weekend treat.
Yeah.
So I'll be a vendor there this weekend.
So you've been doing this for all of these years. You are sought out in many different places. What about the Met? Have you ever done anything with the Met? Uh,
Absolutely. My hats were on exhibition at the Met as wearable art. They've been on exhibit twice. There were these special exhibitions for couture hat makers, and I had hats on exhibit at the Met, as
so
well as the Museum of Arts and Design, also.
so again, it's we're talking about history here because we're in the Second Harlem Renaissance, which started in 1974, basically with the beginning of Harlem Day, which was the theme for Harlem Day in '74, the beginning of the Second Harlem Renaissance. And there's a lot of history about who we are every day. I mean, as you were saying, most of the whole Kentucky Derby, the winningest jockey were black. We had a show about cowboys. Cowboys didn't become cowboys until they went to Hollywood, but cowboys were mostly black. You know,
Yes.
they were the boys who handled the cows and the horses, so they were basically black. You mentioned about hockey. Uh, Hockey started in Canada by blacks, so it's been very interesting to uncover so much history as relates to what we've done. The Black Mozart. I have an article coming out in Harlem Community News this week about Joseph um, Filoni, who uh, was Xavier, and he was the best swords person, the best musician, the best dressed person. Probably would be someone that would have been in connection with you, but that was hidden. A lot of that stuff was hidden. There's a movie out now. Hopefully, that will bring some of that together. But what you've done, Yvette, is to hold on to a culture that uh, is historic. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's involved with that. Tell the listeners and the viewers how they can reach you. What's your website? Or advice about where? And I'm sure weddings have been.
Well,
We
of
were talking about
course.
June graduation and weddings, so this is a good time for
Weddings,
you, right?
there are all my lovely sorority functions. The sorors love a good hat. They have those hat luncheons as well. We have the Veuve Clicquot polo match coming up very soon, which has become a big hat deal here also.
Now, tell us a little bit about the polo match. That's a little something that's above my pay grade.
Well,
We
I got to tell you
don't play a lot of
that
polo in the
it
hood.
is well attended by Black people. It used to be held on Governor's Island. In recent years, they moved it to Liberty State Park. And it is an all afternoon of watching these fabulous men play polo. It is in the tradition of all polo matches where you stomp the divots at halftime. Since it is sponsored by a champagne company, there's plenty of champagne flowing and plenty of food. And people dress in retro sometimes, but it is a hat required event. There will be lots of fabulous hats. And it's just another great chance for you to wear a fancy fascinator. So we have that. And I have customers that even go to the Ascot races in England. And we have all of that coming up next month. So, it's all about hats right now.
Well, one of the things about this show is to, one, highlight businesses like yours so people can understand uh, how businesses survive by the help of the village. And also with Scharlene talking about the opportunities that are available. Columbia University, of course, is their construction program will last longer than we will. So, getting into that type of program will allow for generational wealth by having your children, and even your grandchildren, probably, if they choose to be involved. And Charlene is kind of like the gatekeeper there. She helps these businesses become aware. But I'm glad that we were able to have you on. Charlene, you've heard a lot of stuff. You've been quiet.
I just been
Yeah.
I'm always fascinated. You always bring these guests that just blows me away. And I think 33 years in business and just having this international platform of creativity, like how do you create for so many different events? Like I feel like for me, I would run out of ideas. Like how is that process for you?
I have more ideas than time. I am constantly creating new designs. I have done a lot of traveling all over the world. I've been everywhere from Saudi Arabia, to Thailand, and I get influenced by textiles and just unusual fabric that I've bought and brought back with me. And I always want my hats to have global appeal and to be very, very different from what other hat designers do. So a lot of people come to me because of that. They want exclusivity. The worst thing in the world would be if somebody stepped up in church with the same hat on that you have on. So, so I also want to just say that I am so proud to be a part of the Harlem community. People tell me all the time, "Don't you want to move your store? Don't you want to go somewhere else?" Absolutely not. I started somewhere else, with a tiny little space. I absolutely love being part of the fabric of Harlem, representing Harlem all over the world, whether my hats are in Paris during Paris Fashion Week or wherever my hats have been. Harlem is in the name of my brand. It's Harlem 7 Hats. And you had asked me where I'm located. 2538 Adam Clayton Powell, right on the corner of West 147th Street. And my website is harlemsheaven.com. And I ship everywhere. But come visit the shop if you're around.
I will visit the shop, especially my grandmother loves hats, so I definitely will pay you a visit.
And I hope that those who are listening have now another option that one might be able to make for your mother, your wife, or someone that's close to you. And
I have men's hats also.
I was just getting ready. I was just getting ready to say Father's Day is coming up. So you might say, "Look, I'm getting this for Mother's Day, but I want you to stop by the shop because there's a lot of fedoras and a lot of other hats that." And one of the things that you were saying, Yvette just had a wonderful interview on CBS and they gave her a lot of time to talk about many things. And one of the things that was interesting is how men are beginning. At one time, it was only the females who would get into this different type of design. But now men are beginning to look at that, which is, again, part of our history. Uh, what happens is sometimes we get so caught up into some of the negative energy that surrounds us all of the time in the media and the like, and who we really are becomes another narrative. What and we don't understand about who we were. I mean, if you look at the Harlems of the past and how people used to dress and how they used to allow for themselves to be looked upon in a certain way based on the clothing that they would wear. And God, I remember in Easter and all of those types of things. That's part of a culture. A lot of people may look at it in many different ways based on all of the things that are happening when you're talking about hats, but that's a part of a culture that in many cases have been forgotten. And I'm so glad, Iveta, that you have been able to be the pallbearer to allow for something that has been around for a long time. I remember, I think you might remember Lois Alexander and the Harlem Fashion Museum in Harlem. And she would talk about many of the different types of fashions and to things that she did and dresses that she made for Jacqueline Kennedy and many of the things. And she was in Harlem, and she uh, was actually the one who started the fashion show for Harlem Week, as far as bringing, like you have done, many young artists who could not get any type of play downtown, but would be able to design and show their wear to thousands of people on 125th Street and later on 135th Street. And to this day,
Mm-hmm.
that still
Mm-hmm.
takes place, as you know, because you've been a part of that for so long. So, again, I would like to thank you for sharing some of that as a business person. There are many different businesses that people are in. One of the things that I've learned in talking to you is that if you can be in a business for something that you love, you know, I mean, you were doing this before it was a business. This was something that you love. So if you
Yeah.
can find a profession and turn it into a business based on something that you love, your ability to be successful will be a lot greater than if you're doing something just to make a buck. So, uh, Charlene, any final thoughts that you have with Iveta before we let her go?
I wish you and bid you many, many more years of success. I'm just completely in awe of
Thank
all
you.
that you had. So I definitely will be sharing a lot of your business and your website to my colleagues so that they can kind of learn more about it and whatnot. I think that this has just been a fascinating and thank you, Tony, for introducing me to Iveta.
And there are two more races because there's three, right? There's the Belmont.
Yes. Yeah. The Preakness.
Uh huh.
And then we're going to have the Belmont Stakes locally here. So,
Okay.
another chance to put on a killer hat and step out. I
Well,
always say style starts on the streets of Harlem and then it translates to the rest of the world later on.
I have to talk to you about the Harlem Tourism Board because obviously you are uh, a part of the second Harlem Renaissance, so that you definitely have to have a place there. So we'll talk about
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Yvette. Again, harlemheavens.com. Uh,
Love it. I loved it so much. Thanks for having me.
take care. It's a pleasure. And Charlene, it's always interesting how people who are right around the corner,
Yes,
sometimes you don't know about it. I'm sure there's people who are watching this. So I know her. I didn't know that she's known around the world
yeah.
for making the hats. That's right next door to you, which is one of the great things about the Soul Cities and the Harlem Community News and the Black media and Black, at least most of it, is that it allows for us to allow for people to see things that sometimes they may not never do. And we got Double D who was watching. She's that's another icon for the Harlem community, which is one of these days we got to get Daryl on the show. He has an interesting story. There's so many interesting stories.
Yeah, and you are like the book of the well that have all these stories out,
There's
because again, you bring on so many different guests that have fascinating lives, and just talking about, if you remember last year when we were doing the Mother's Day show, you were talking about Minton's jazz club, and it was just like all the stories that he had about that. And it was just kind of like, oh my goodness. So it's just always lovely to see like the history and like how they got there and how they are now. I think that that's just such a fascinating story.
and I think the thing that really is uh, amazing to me is that there is a Soul City where this stuff can be recorded. So the second Harlem Renaissance, to a certain degree, you'll be able to see that wherever you are. So that's great. But we are talking about a young generation of business persons and entrepreneurs that's coming up, thanks to you
Yeah.
and your program. So there's another. Our next guest is one of the people that I'm sure you have been able to provide a certain type of guidance and understanding as to how to become part of this entrepreneurial world that takes place at Columbia University.
Well, I will say that a few weeks ago, I had the honor to participate in the graduation of the Pathway to Apprenticeship, and I've always usually attend these graduation, but like this specific graduation definitely moved me significantly. Just to see the room filled of 22 graduates, of young men and women that came and committed themselves to learn about different trades, to with the potentiality to be placed within a union trade shop. So I was just completely in awe, and I know that they're going to be having other cohorts. So I wanted to invite Anthony Cooper. He is the program manager of the P2A. He supported a lot of the graduates, and he had such a moving speech that he gave at the graduation that I was like, oh my God, it was a tearjerker for me. I was like, okay, because growing up, I mean, I'm a young kid that grew up in Washington Heights, and I saw so many different people go the wrong path. And I feel like if we had these programs earlier on, we could have probably prevented that, just to inspire them that there are other things, there's other ways for you to have that opportunity. And I feel like P2A does that so significantly. They've changed so many different lives. So welcome, Anthony.
Hi. Afternoon, everybody. Afternoon. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure, Anthony. So tell us a little bit about who you are and some of the things that made Charlene so emotional.
Well, it's funny, right? Because I get being in this position, right? I get that question a lot, right? And it's like I have to tell my story over and over, right? And it still feels like the first time I'm telling it. So just a little brief background about myself. I was going back and forth in and out of the prison system at a young age. And about 22, 23, when I had my first daughter, um, changed my life. I'm like, I didn't want my kid to come up to the jails or the prisons to see me, so I was trying to find a way. So I worked a little odd jobs, couple stockroom jobs, but I knew like being who I was and the things that I grew up in, right? Like it was always trying to find that balance of being who I am internally and also being who I am, but doing the right thing, right? So that was kind of a challenge because growing up in the neighborhood, right, some of the things that we think are right are actually bad, and some of the things that we think that are deemed corny is actually the right thing to do. So I credit a lot of my early success to my first daughter just changing my life, and so to make a long story less long, I went to Osborne Association, which is a community-based organization that really does a lot of good work. in the community. And during the time I was in that cohort, Pathways to Apprenticeship was having like their second info session. So they were just getting off the ground, and they came to Osborne and they gave an info session. And the brother that spoke, Kajim Hill Q, it felt like he was talking to me. Like I'm sitting in the seat and I'm like, everything that I just was thinking in my head and everything that I'm trying to accomplish, you just told me that this program will help me get there. So after the info session, right, I was the only person that stood and I spoke to them, but specifically Q. And you know, I just asked them, like, brother, how did you get here? Like, I don't want your job. I don't want to know what you do. I just want to know, how did you get to where you're at telling me what I need to hear? And he was just like, hard work. So that was it. Like, that was as the conversation, right? So I walk off, and Alvin Banks, who was the instructor at Osborne, he comes and he's like, yo, P2A wants the guy in the yellow shirt. So we're all looking around. I looked, oh, it's me. I got the yellow shirt on. So I'm like, hold up, they want me? So I get up, I run out there, and the brother's like, yo, I like your vibe. I like everything that you're talking about. I want to offer you a job. Brother, sister, I didn't ask this man when, where, how much, I didn't say, I said yes. Would you believe he took me and a few other people in that cohort and put us in Action Sanitation on the spot? On the spot. Now, when I tell you, for $9, I was neck high in garbage. I was neck high. That might be it was the worst job I've ever had. But the brother told me, he said, if you can do this, you can do construction. And it just stuck with me. Like, I just went in there every day. Like, if I can do this, I can do anything. And I worked. And eventually I got my interview with 79 through Pathways to Apprenticeship. So I was able to cut out the application process. I was able to cut out a lot of the things that, you know, the general public has to go through. And I was afforded a interview, got the interview, and I got in Local 79 through the apprenticeship program. And it changed my life forever. Like, you know, I don't know, like, I don't even, if I could sit here and tell you all the things that happened to me during this time, we'd be here forever. Like, this would be a forever broadcast, because even till today, it's still doing things for me. You know, like, I became a deputy foreman. I became a foreman. Like, from 2017, I never seen under $100,000. I was able to put my first kid, right, the one that I credit helping me change, I'm able to put her in private school. Like, this is mind blowing to me. Like, you know, like, my mom couldn't, like, I passed the test. I'll never forget. I had passed the test to get into private school, and I got in, and I couldn't go because she couldn't afford it. And, like, I didn't understand at the time, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, oh, I can't go, cool. But to be here now and to be able to do it for my daughter and to go through the process, you know, it's like, it's amazing, right? And then when I tell my mom that I'm doing this for my daughter, she can't stop crying, because I'm doing for my kid what she wasn't able to do for me. And it's because of this program, right? So I work, I put my head down, I go to work for 9 years. And then one day I just call up P2A, hey, like, you know, I want to give back more. I want to start being involved more. I've done my time in the field. You know, I want to start helping people get to this level. And, you know, they made me a part-time instructor. And thanks to Dave Milton, you know, I was able to be groomed into like a really, really, really good instructor. And then, you know, he got an opportunity, which opened another opportunity. And I'll never forget the conversation that I had with LaVon Chambers. And he asked me, he looked me right in my eyes, and he asked me, said, brother, you think you can handle it? And I'm so conditioned that no matter what task is at hand, you say you can handle it. And if you can't, you figure it out. That's a laborer. You know what I mean? And when I tell you, I figured it out. And to be here now on this radio station, on this broadcast, as the lead instructor, program director for the same program, brother, that gave me the opportunity to change my life, it's amazing. It's amazing. Like, you know, so when I gave this type of speech at the graduation that Sister Scharlene was at, hopefully you can feel like the realism, and that's what makes it a tearjerker, because now not only are you looking at someone who came to the program, it's almost like a glimpse into the future. Because if these 23 people, men and women, who I think are what they say they are and what they have shown me they are, you have another 23 Anthony Coopers. And then not only that, they're their own entities, right? They're their own names. And then it just makes the brand bigger. So now, an example that I use, right? If you take 5 people from a neighborhood and you put them in this business and they all make $100,000, you just put $500,000 a year back into a community. It's just finding where the community is at the time, right? Something that we go over in class, I asked the students, right? Like, how many of you have been to your community board meeting? Right.
Probably
And then I asked them, how many of you even know where it's at? Right. So everybody gets in these programs and they start seeing the way, right? And P2A, I want to spread no, you don't do it that way. You don't just tell people about P2A. You actually show them about P2A. You become a community board activist, right? You become predominant in your neighborhood as a voice. And you tell them it's because of P2A. It showed me what the union means. It gave me an opportunity. It showed me that these people are trying to change our communities. And if you really want to be a part of that, right, and to be an alumni, you have to carry that into the neighborhood. You have to actually be a leader. So all in all, right, the essence of P2A is not just building union workers, right, even good workers, but good human beings, good people in their communities. So not only are we giving them an opportunity, they can show that it actually works. You know what I mean? And because with me, I'm a hard instructor, right? Like, you're late 1 minute, 2 minutes, you gotta go, right? Like, I've heard sob stories, I understand, but what can you tell me? You can ask my brother named Clark. We slept in the car for 7 hours waiting for this opportunity. You can't be late with me. You get what I'm saying? Like, you can't slack, you can't miss a step. We've done that already. That's the reason why we're here. 90% of the people that come through P2A, like myself, are felons. Some of us, like myself, predicate. Some people, like Jabasa Fox, who's a recent graduate, he did 20-something years. He's 37. It's his whole life. But he's a local 638 steam fitter right now. So that felony jacket, we weaponized it. And we used it against the same system, right, that put him in there. And now he's going in these same commercial buildings, residential buildings, where they might frown upon him. But he's the reason why your thing is going to get going. He's putting in your HVAC. He's putting in your pipes. This is the felon. No, he's not a felon. He's a steam fitter. He's a union member. He's a brother. He's a black man doing his thing. That's what he is. You know what I mean? And he came through P2A, thank God, gratefully. Thankful, right?
That was like, as you can see, why he moved me, Tony. That was, again, the program is giving so many men and women a second opportunity to a real productive life. And I heard like all the information session, how many people came to your information sessions. Like, I think there were over 100 in most of the information sessions, and you only have space 22 people. So it's like there is a need for this. People want this opportunity for their life. And I feel like, I don't know if you're doing another cohort, Anthony, like how is that process going?
Well, right now, right, being that we just finished the cohort, and also before I go, I just want to give a shout out to Columbia University, right, because that turnout was actually due into Columbia's outreach. So I just want to give them a big shout out, because when you hear the opportunity to work at Columbia University, I mean, that might just hit a little different. You know what I'm saying? That might just hit the home a little different. Like, hey, there's an opportunity at Columbia University. But so right now, what I'm dealing with is placement, right? So my job after the cohort is to find homes for these men and women, right? Because the whole point is to show me what you can do, and then I'll show you what I can do. So being that P2A was birthed out of a union, Local 79, a lot of our members come from 79, right? My job is to now outreach to the unions, tell them, hey, I got 5, 6 men and women who just performed at the highest level, that we can possibly give, because I run it just like a work site. I came from the same program, so I know what it takes to make them, productive in this business, and also retention, right? We don't just want to say, oh, I placed 20 people, but then a year later, 15 dropped out. No, retention is, we have an 86% retention rate. You know what I'm saying? That's amazing. So the process now is just to find these people homes, and then once the last person's played, not even, sometimes, depending on which union they choose, it might take a little time, but we prep them for that. We give them OSHA 30s, SST cards, flagging cards, blueprint certs. They get a whole bunch of certs that in the meantime of waiting for these unions, there's still an opportunity to go get work. We don't just leave you high and dry. So then once they're placed, it's right back to the trenches, right back to the community. It's right back to going out there, doing outreach, recruiting, letting people know what's going on.
I think I lost.
Yeah.
No, but what Anthony was saying is that they really give them in-hand training on different levels. Oh, there you go.
Sorry. I just got a call. I'm sorry. But yes.
How would someone who's interested get in contact with you or get information about the program?
So the first thing I tell them is go to p2atrades.org and sign up through the workforce application. And then from there, so P2A is more than just like a program, right? We're like a central hub. So we don't just put out information for ourselves. We put out information for other unions, if there's other recruitments, if there's rallies, if there's job fairs, whatever's going on in the community, we send those out via emails. So the best way to get in contact with us and to get connected with us is through the actual website. And then you'll start receiving emails for the info sessions and things of that nature.
And P2A, give again an understanding of how that name. What does P?
So P2A is Pathways to Apprenticeship. And I got to credit my big brother, LaVon Chambers, Tamir Rosenblum, and Tim Warrington for believing, creating and actually doing this program, that changed hundreds of lives. You know what I'm saying? I'm just one. You get me? Like, I'm just lucky to be here, but I'm just one of many. Like, there's many. I mean, homes, right? How many people have bought homes through this program? Cars, put their kids through school, college. Like, it's, and just to give a synopsis of the program, it's a 5-week program, Monday through Friday, about 8 to 5:30. And during this process, right, we give drug tests because you have to be clean. I take them to training facilities. So we might go to local 79 training facility, local 580s training facility, local 638, because I can tell you till I'm blue in the face, but what's better than actually seeing something that you might actually be a part of, right? I take them down to job actions. I take them to rallies. I take them more or less. I just basically, the word I'm trying to use, really put them in the point of view of a union member before you're actually a union member, right? So I call the classroom the shanty, which is like the hub for all the guys when they go on the site. I designate a shop steward every week. We call them shoppy. So once a week, you're shop. I'm giving you these things so they're not foreign to you when you get out there in the field, right? I bring in guest speakers. I bring in people who've done time in jail and got through this program and made it through the apprenticeship program. Like, I bring people in to have them in like it almost feels like you're there already. You know what I mean? Like, and you see like the benefits before you actually get it. And then now it's like, go put the work in, because you see it's here. You see that it's real. Like, we're not one of those programs that just sell you dreams and dangle a peripheral carrot in front of you, right? No, it's like, look, this is actually here. And 9 years in the field, I'm not too far removed from the same people that I'm recruiting, right? Like, I'm still in tune with people that are doing certain things, or they might be in jail, or they might be, I'm still trying to recruit these people. brother, put it down and come get this money. Like, this is legal money. This is like $40 an hour, 50, 60. I got this guy, Kevin Roland. He's my superstar. He's making $84 an hour as an iron worker. Are you kidding me? He got contracted for JFK and MTA. He finished the cohort in December. This it works. Like, it works. Like, you know what I mean?
Now,
Like,
do you have to have
works.
any special skill to start?
Yes.
What type of
do.
skills do you have to have?
Determination. Determination and being able to be held accountable. Those are
the skills that you definitely need to be part of the program. They teach you all.
They teach you all of the other things, like as you were saying.
Right. So there's different paths to P2A. So I feel like if you want to do electrician, plumbing, as he was saying, steam fitter, carpentry, there's different trades and people have different interests, but they give you all the information on how to do it and how to do it properly.
So if I'm a young person and I just got released.
Hey guys, I'm back. I'm sorry.
That's quite all right.
I got some of my participants. Real quick, I had about 8 to 12 people being interviewed this week for Local 580. About 7, 8 of them came from the recent cohort with Columbia. So, they're calling me, they're ecstatic. They're like, Coach, I just had the interview thing. I'm sorry about that, but
that's good news. What I was asking, there are a lot of young people and not so young who are being released now based on the new cannabis laws. So a lot of the people will have their records expunged, but they're maybe coming out with no skill whatsoever. So am I correct in saying that if you want to become an electrician, if you want to develop a skill, if you go through P2A, you will be put into the direction, and if you have what it takes as far as attitude and desire, you can follow in your footsteps, in a sense.
Couldn't have said it any better. That's it. Because so when I started, I had no skills. I never did construction in my life. I never picked up a broom, a shovel, nothing. And I made it all right, right? So what the pre-apprenticeship is, right? And I feel like it's more not really prepping you for the work. It's more or less prepping you for the mindset that you have to be in to actually get through the work, right? So you might have, it's a very intense situation.
Like basic training.
Right, exactly, right? So before we send you out into the battlefield, we got to make sure you're all right. We got to make sure you can handle this, right? So I might put you, so I have them work out every morning, right? I like to do legs a lot. And the reason why is because you're on your legs 8, 9, 10, 12, 14, 16 hours a day. You know what I mean? Got to get your legs strong. You might be walking up a scaffold 10, 12 times a day. You might have to carry buckets of knuckles, right? So let's work out. You know what happens after the first week? A whole bunch of people see that they really wasn't in the shape that they thought they was in, right? And what happens when you get to something that you might say, I can't do this. You might quit. But what happens is psychologically, if you go through a basic training, when you actually get there, it's almost like deja vu. And if nothing else, what I get the most is, you never lied to us. Everything you told us, Coach, was 100%. You never lied to us. And why is that? Because I actually sat in the seat. I actually had to wake up 4 a.m, 4:30 every day with people looking on me in the apprenticeship program and make it happen. So I can tell you how to do it. You just have to want to do it. I can't want it more than you, right? Because how many times have you guys woke up, get ready for work, tired, don't really want to go in, today's not the day, but then you get up. You actually do it, right? And then the day turns out not so bad. It's really just in the mind. So in this industry, they don't have really like a long list of patients. So, so we can't have it. You know what I mean? I don't want to send you out there and set you up for failure. So,
Well, again, Charlene, I understand now what you were saying. She was talking very highly of you. But
Thank you,
I
sis.
think the important thing, of course, is to see the face behind the program. But the important thing is that many people, I just had someone say, the uh, unemployment rate, especially for African American males in Harlem, is high. And one of the things that I always respond to is that there's a lot of work that needs to be done, but there's a lot of programs out there that people just don't know about.
Yeah.
And
Right.
if we can begin to have programs again, the whole black media, supporting the black media, because a lot of people, I'm sure, have a cousin or a friend or a brother or a father,
Mm-hmm.
or uncle who could use a P2A
A
program,
100%.
but never knew that it existed. And you won't know unless you are able to have these types of opportunities to broadcast, to be able to talk to large numbers
A
of
hundred
people.
percent.
And that's why the whole Soul City Network and many is so valuable to us, because we're able to allow for people to know a Charlene De La Cruz, who is kind of like, if you want a job, especially in construction at Columbia University, you better know Charlene De La Cruz and how to
Right.
reach her,
Right.
because if she can't help you, she definitely knows who will be able to help you and can tell you whether or not you were wasting your time, whether you're real. And Anthony, you not only live a life that we talked about at the beginning. When you find something that is not about, we all like to get paid. I mean, that's why you work. That's a business. But if you can find something that has something else as a motivating factor, something that moves you as a
Mm,
person, something that you can love, you're going to be good at it, you know.
100%.
And from what you are saying, it's inspirational. Do you ever go? And we have a couple of more minutes. One last question, because someone had. Do you ever go to the prisons to talk to people who may be getting ready to get out, to let them know what they might be able to do?
Funny you say that, right? So I've actually gone to Rikers Island before, right? We're actually trying to get back in there, but quick story. It's funny you mentioned that, right? So I actually went to Rikers Island before, and it was my first time going with P2A, and actually my first time back in Rikers Island, like in a while. So
As a
it was
visitor.
it was kind of, yeah, as a visitor, right? So it was like kind of shell shocking, right? So I get in there and I get in the day room and I see the vibe, right? And I'm like, this is a little too hard. Like it's not. I turn the TV off in the jail. I turn the TV off. Now, if you've been to jail, that's a no-no. You're not supposed to just walk in there and start turning stuff off, right? I turn it off. You guys need this, right? Long story less long, I give the info session. One brother in specifically, right? Jamel Cornish, he never stopped contacting me. He used to call me on three-way. He used to call me from the jail like every week for like 9 months. I told him what to do. I called his peoples. We exchanged. We did the whole back and forth. Brother came out of jail, did everything that I told him to do. He's a shop steward right now. And that's from
Okay.
going to jail. We need to go back to the jails. We need to have it like, just to give you like a quick, like, a little insight, right? So I had a meeting and they got this thing in California where they're going into the jails 48 months prior to them being released and giving them services like this.
Yeah.
So now when they come home from jail, they have housing, they have a job, or not even a job, like a career if you get into this business, right? And it's just like
Well, it
it's
should be part of the correction. It should be a component. It shouldn't
yes,
be
sir.
something that happens. We don't. We're running out of time. There's so many different question. Maybe we might have to have you back on again because there's so many questions, especially with the fact that if someone is looking for work, there are places that you can go to. That's the most important thing that's out there.
And I want to give a shout out to Exodus, Osborne, Fortune Society, Pathways to Apprenticeship, Hard Hat, Helmets to Hard Hats, Construction Skills. Like, I want to give a shout out to all the programs out there, man. Everything in Harlem, everything in the Bronx, to Banana Kelly. They actually helped me get my first apartment when I was in Osborne, because I didn't even know that if you had drug charges, it counts as a disability. And there are services that will help you get apartments if you're struggling with shelter. So I want to shout out Banana Kelly. Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I want to shout out Osborne again. Thank you. Alvin Banks, Levon Chambers. I want to shout out Local 79, Local 638, all the building trades, the ARC, everybody who's out here putting in work to help the communities, right? Because that's what it's about. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you to Soul City, to you, to everybody up here that gave me an opportunity on behalf of Pathways to Apprenticeship to speak. You know, I think my students and everybody who came up under me, my co-workers, they all would say the same thing. Thank you, brother. What you guys are doing is absolutely phenomenal. Sister, I thank you again for inviting me. I know I ain't Vaughn, but
well,
those are some big
and
shoes
again,
to fill,
if you
but
go,
thank you.
And this will be posted on the Soul City Facebook page. So if you want to send some people there, because I definitely will, you know, so that they can see it. Right. You could go to, you know, to the Soul. Just talk to Scharlene. She'll let you know how to get to the Soul City Facebook page. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. This is a good way to end the show. And as you were saying, you are a good Mother's Day present. maybe we can have P2A create some more Mother's Day presents. So
no, we trying, brother. We trying, man. We trying.
Buy your mom a hat to wear to church, right?
Mind you, I sent my mom's the heaven. I sent to the website for the hats. Like, I just sent it to her when I was in the bathroom. I just sent it to her.
It's giving back. Thank you so much, Tony, for everything, and thank you, Anthony, for joining us.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Shout out to Soul City, because that gives us the platform to be able to have these types of conversations that you probably wouldn't have too many other places. And thank you, Scharlene. It's always a pleasure to have the second Tuesday. I just love the second Tuesday.
Well, I love being here with you too, Tony. It's definitely something that I'm able to highlight businesses that I love working with, or any services that I know that can really impact other people's lives. If I could just change 1 inch of their life for a betterment, I think that's
well, you've changed a lot of lives, my dear. And again, there's more work in Columbia University. There'll be work in Columbia University when our grandchildren are able to do that. So thank you, Scharlene. I appreciate you. And can't wait to next week. I mean, next month. I wish it was next week, next month. You take care.
All right. Bye.
So that's it for today. Great Mother's Day wishes for all of you mothers that are out there. We're coming into Juneteenth soon, so June is right around the corner. And don't forget, the Holland Tourism Board is going back to Senegal in October. Matter of fact, we'll probably do a show around the trip and have some of the people who were on the last trip on, just to give you a little information about the Senegal. Take care. Thank you. Thanks, Soul City. And thanks for watching us. We'll see you next week. Take care.
This is Kia Rogers, and you're listening to Urbanology with my dad, Tony Rogers, on WHCR 90.3 FM New York.